Hey there, how you doing? Charlie Winters here with selections for Thursday, the 6th of July. But first, a quick recap on Wednesday's performance. Well, it started disappointingly, although the first horse I thought actually ran a decent, well, one of them actually ran a decent race. At one point, it was 40 to 1 during the morning, and it got an easy lead, and I thought, hey up. And it wasn't until it got squeezed out that it weakened, in my opinion. Don't get me wrong, it was being challenged, but could it have gone on for fourth place if it hadn't got like a little bit of intimidation? I don't know. But I was quite happy with how the 40 to 1 ran. The other horse, never in contention. The middle legs, well, obviously we kind of got the forecast up. I didn't tip the forecast, and I didn't have the forecast. We In the end, it worked out a bit awkward because I took the 6 to 1 of Indian Creek, and it went from 6 to 1 to 11 to 1. And then I took the price of, yeah, whatever the horse is called, the one ridden by Neil Callan that took a very wide berth. Well, that was backed, I believe, from about 11 or 12 into 9 to 2. Well, Indian Creek won, so it meant we got 6, 12, £2.40 each way, basically, on the last horse. But we're going to get a return anyway because we've got a non-runner. So basically, it worked out so we got a 40 pence each way single. So we got that on Indian Creek. So you probably got anywhere between about £4.50 and about £6 left returned from Wednesday. So yeah, the final selection, I don't think you get it the best of rides. It's normally really pressing the lead. All right, didn't help with Be Prepared darting to the front after a couple of furlongs. But it was always like being a little bit tangled up with horses. It was like being it never really got a clear run, and that's the last thing you want at Epsom, with horses leaning into you and then having to go, because obviously they were trying to avoid the far side rail, which they did. But the only way it would have got a bit of a clearer run is by heading towards that rail, and I think it would have been disadvantaged anyway. So disappointing, but it's not the end of the world getting half the stake back from me. I'm not classing it as a win, clearly, but it's better than getting nothing back, if I'm being honest. So let's get into it. So Thursday, I like the look of these horses. What I've gone for, the ones at Haydock, I've gone for them that they can handle slower ground. It's going to be, in my opinion, probably good ground by the end of the day. And I'm at Haydock, I'm going for horses that I believe are either running into form or are capable of better but haven't shown it yet. So it's a 25 pence each way Yankee. I've missed out I haven't gone for an each way lucky 15 because I don't think the price is big enough. So there's no point in me having, let's say, a 20 pence each way lucky 15 that comes to £6, and having basically 20 pence each way singles where on a 9 to 2 chance it might return about 150. I can't see point, to be honest. So I've kept it a low stake day because it would have only been a 10 pence each way lucky 15. So I've actually upped the unit stake. But because we haven't had the singles, it's lowered the overall stake, if you know what I mean. So I've gone for a 25 pence each way Yankee and a 25 pence each way accumulator. It comes to £6. So let's get into it. If you could do me a favour, give me a quick like or subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. So let's crack on. So the first selection is Sweet Fantasy at 5 to 1 in the 240 at Haydock, paying 4 places instead of 3. This was trained by Ralph Beckett, and his stable's been pretty decent form. He had a good Ascot, but had been a bit in and out since. Well, I think it's about time this horse did better, in my opinion. It's bred to do better. I think tomorrow or Thursday it will run a much better race. If you can just find a bit of last season's form, it's got every chance. And I think it's a poor race. 5 to 1, is it good value? Well, not really for an each way Yankee, but I do think it could get. I believe that could even open up favourite if they really fancy it. I think it could be something like 11 to 4 favourite as it sounds. We have had these horses where they do get backed, especially when we do like gain the advantage of looking for horses that handle slower ground. Well, this horse does handle slower ground, and I do think 5 to 1's value. Just it's not fantastic. Basically, it's a free go if it comes place kind of thing. If you know what I mean. So the second selection is Roundhay Park at 5 to 1 again in the 10 past 4 at Haydock, paying 4 places instead of 3. This horse is running into form now, and I do believe it's got a cracking chance of winning. Just give me 1 second, and I'm gonna show you something. As you can see, always very well prepared. So, yes, this is the race, right? I do fancy. So, if you do use trackers, I would strongly suggest putting significantly into your tracker. And I'll explain more in a minute. I'm not going to click on the actual form of the horse because I'm not particularly bothered about the form. I'm going to talk about its official rating from last year. It was well into the hundreds last year. And it switched stables. I think it was Kohlberg. It doesn't really matter. But now it's with Julie Camacho. And in my opinion, it has got the form to win this race in a canter. But I don't think it will do because it's rated, as you can see, 87. Well, they're not going to let it absolutely hose up, which I think it could do, and let it get, what, a £5-7 penalty? I don't know. Depends how well it wins, to be honest. But I don't think that horse will win tomorrow. I think that horse, there could be excuses for it. Either it didn't take to the cheek pieces, whatever reason, or even unlucky. I think this horse has been aimed at a much more valuable race. And Graham Lee is very good for finding trouble. I'm not saying anything untoward is going to happen, but they have got an extremely well handicapped horse. Why would you really want to win a 6.5 grand race when you've got these 20s, 25s, 30 grand races coming up at York, or maybe even weekend races at Haydock, Stewards Cup? So I think this horse could be a tad unlucky tomorrow. Don't get me wrong, it could absolutely hose up. They win this race and they win another big race. A big race as well. But I think it's so much easier to be unlucky in this race off at 87, may even get dropped a pound or a couple of pounds for being unlucky or being beaten, and being even better handicapped for a decent race, rather than winning this 6.5 grand race and having to shoulder or having to win a decent race off of £5 or £7 higher. If you know what I mean. So if you have got trackers, I would put significantly into that tracker. However, a more realistic place chance, at least in my opinion, is round Hay Park because it's running into form. Alex Jarry has ridden it twice now, and I think that Nigel Tinkler definitely thinks highly of Alex Jarry, and he puts him on these horses where he thinks are running into form, and all of a sudden they've got a massive £7 off, and I think this jockey will be very competitive, even just claiming 3. So let me just full screen it again, or go back to the right. Everything's fine again. So that's round Hay Park. Third selection is Lord Cherry at 9-2 in the 4:30 at Yarmouth, paying 4 places instead of 3. And as you'll be aware, this is from memory, so I'm gradually beginning to forget. So I do believe this horse is drawn high at Yarmouth. It's got course form, and it's got Neil Callan on board again. My only doubt is the fact that it's been off for 88 days, but it's a dreadful race. But I do believe this horse is bred to want slow ground. As I remember, I do believe it's or even if it's not, it still wants soft ground. I believe it's sired by Profitable. That horse does prefer, or that side does sire horses that love soft ground. Bearing in mind, the vast majority of its races have been on the all-weather. Not too worried about that. It's ran twice on the turf, good to firm and good to soft. It's ran fine both times. The time it ran on good to soft was at Yarmouth, which it's actually racing at tomorrow. I believe it's over a furlong extra tomorrow anyway. Lord Cherry, I think it's the form peak. My only doubt, as I said, I would much sooner if it had ran 20 odd days ago rather than 88. Will it make a difference? I don't know. So that's the third selection. My most interesting selection of the day. Tell you what, let's call it the nap of the day. Not because I'm extremely confident of it winning. I'm extremely confident that it will leave, or it's much better than its form it's showed so far. And once again, I'm unprepared for this, but I am going to show you what I mean by it. So the fourth selection is Hardy Angel at 8-1 So I think it's also the best value probably of the day out of my selections. In the 520 at Haydock, paying 4 places instead of 3. I think you don't have to agree with me, but I think you will agree with me that Haydock is a relatively fair course. It's a galloping course, relatively fair. So let me get into Hardy Angel. Well, so it's 520 at Haydock. So here we go. So I'm sorry for those that like a quick video, but obviously you haven't got to watch it now. But this is the reason why I've gone for Hardy Angel. Well, as you're aware, that I am a bit of a fan of Tim Easterby. It's just that I find it impossible to catch him right. I'll be honest. So there are a few, like the William Jarvis and William Buick combination, very interesting. And Colbert, sorry, not Colbert, no, forget Colbert. I was going to say that he used to own the previous ones I'm talking about significantly. But anyway, Hardy Angel, 27 days since his last run. I do like David Allen, but I can never get him right. It's a bit like that Bolin Margaret. It's like you could really fancy it. Problem is, Bolin Margaret, just change the subject. Bolin Margaret, quite often, it always seems that the Easterbys prefer not to win when the horses are short prices. I don't know if you've noticed that. But anyway. So, it's rated 62 in this race, or currently. So let's get into this bit. So, at Catterick, it was never involved on heavy ground. As you're well aware, or I've told you in the past that I personally think that Timmy Easterby's horses, the thing is that the fattest pigs. Basically, I think they've just been in the paddock like throughout the winter. You know, like just chilling out. There's got a poor strike rate up until the end of May. Then June really kicks in. So Pontefract, it was then allowed to stride out, disputed the lead, and apparently the saddle slipped. So you can kind of write that run off, although it's his best run so far. So it actually ran above itself, even though the saddle slipped. And tomorrow it's off £3 lower. Then at Ripon, if you look at that, look, it was slowly away in rear. So basically, if slowly away, could never get involved because Ripon's, it's an awful course at times, really, because if you're slowly away, it's a bit undulating. Like there aren't huge hills, but it's a little bit of a roller coaster, a bit like Nottingham and Catterick are in places. So I just think it was all over the place. And then, as you can see in the comments, well, you can't because it's got off the page, but it said, and missed the break as a result and was also denied a clear run between 2 and 1 furlong out. So, bit unlucky, a bit of a chaos run. It was actually favourite for the race, if you can see that. So, let's write that one off. And then, Thirsk. So, in touch with leaders, ridden after halfway, weakened gradually from 2 out. I personally think it's crying out for 7 furlong now because it's been run over 6 furlong for ages now. And as they get older, they generally like a little bit of a step up in trip. However, at Thirsk, and let me just click on this. Right, take a note of this. So, even though it didn't run a great race, winner, drawn 10. Second, drawn 9. Third, drawn 11. Fourth, drawn 12. Right, all right, don't get me wrong. 5th place was drawn 3. And then you've got drawn 8. Right, our selection is, don't get me wrong, I know it's beaten. It was drawn 6. But clearly, I know 6 isn't the worst of the draws, but clearly it was fancying the very high draws, hugging the near side. Well, I wasn't drawn that. It was off the rail. I think it hasn't had the look of it all year. Fat as a pig first time up, second time the saddle slipped, third time the draw wasn't really in its favour. Sorry, it was unlucky and it got left behind. And last time out, the draw wasn't in its favour. This time on a fairer course, I think at Haydock, over an extra furlong, it can run a much better race. Drawn 2. There's a bend coming up relatively soon after the furlong marker. It will be drawn on the inside, and I think it's got every chance. And I tell you what, I'll tell you this for nothing. The Hardy Angel, sorry, not Hardy Angel, at Haydock, there's sometimes a golden highway right under that far side rail when there's a bit of rain. And as I said, it's good ground at Haydock tomorrow. So I just realised it's nearly 15 minutes. So if you're still here, you deserve a medal. Or at least put in the video in the comments 15 minutes. At least I know you was here till the very end, which I appreciate. You don't have to be, but I really appreciate everybody that has liked, subscribed, and even donated to Flat Stats Fund. So those are the selections for Thursday. So the very best of luck. Charlie Winters, over and out. Cheers, mate.